every Monday. Labor Day, everyone. We're super excited that we can be here with you, and we have a super great show. I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Labor Day, and thank you for taking time out of your day to watch us. And even if you're watching this on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or like 3 months from now, the information is still super cool and super good. I want to remind everybody about NAMI Tennessee's email list. You just go to namitn.org. Look, it's right there. It's there. Every single Monday I say this. I need to write a new joke because I say that the reason I say this is so folks can get a toaster. So if you have any joke ideas, go ahead and slap them in the comments, and who knows, it might make a future episode. But please, if you want to find out about all the cool things that NAMI Tennessee is doing, just please go to namitn.org, sign up for the email list, and they will keep you in the loop, and you'll find out about very cool events like this. You'll also find out about the virtual NAMI Tennessee conference. It's happening September 23rd and 24th, so we're getting really, really close. You go to namitn.org to learn more about it there, to sign up. Lots of cool speakers, lots of cool information. There's a CIT track. There's a very cool keynote speaker. The host of Mental Illness Happy Hour is going to be giving a keynote. It's just an awesome, awesome time, and we sincerely hope that you can join us. All right, enough of that. Let's bring on our super cool guest, Debra Wyatt, Professor Debra Wyatt.
Well, Instructor
Debra Wyatt. Now, full disclosure for everyone, Debra Wyatt is my sister. She lives in Memphis, Tennessee. She's retired military, current instructor. Her husband is a police officer, and her niece, see, I introduced everybody else first so nobody could claim favoritism. Her niece is my niece, her daughter, my favorite. So you show this to Eva that Uncle Gabe gave her a shout out on the internet, which as far as Eva's generation concerned, is basically like getting your name on TV.
You're not wrong.
I know. Debra, it's weird calling you Debra, so I'm just going to keep calling you Debra, or I'm sorry, Debbie for the rest of the time, because that's how I know you. Instructor Wyatt, please introduce yourself.
Well, as I said, my name is Debra Wyatt. I work at the University of Memphis. I am an instructor coordinator for academic activity classes, and then I teach classes. I teach American Red Cross, responding to emergencies, emergency medical response, swimming, lifeguarding, WSI. One of my favorite class to teach is beginning swimming. I love taking students who are fearful of the water and getting them to swim across the pool. It's the most rewarding thing ever. Not retired from the military, but I did serve in the military for between active duty and National Guard for about 11 years. Yes, now I'm here.
Debbie, I have two questions for you. The first one is, what is the difference between being retired from the military and just leaving the military? Right? Because isn't doing something for 11 years and then stopping retiring?
No, retiring is you serve your full 20 years or more, and then you get this nice retiree ID and benefits of retirement. Whereas separation, just serving your term and then getting out of the military, hopefully with an honorable discharge, is just like ending one job and moving on to the next.
Makes very good sense. And then the next question that I have is, you said that you were an instructor and not a professor. Can you explain to everybody the difference between an instructor and a professor?
Professor is a tenure track position. It's sort of a hierarchy. It's like a chain of command as well, in that if you are hired on as a professor, maybe your job is all teaching, maybe your job is teaching and research, but as you go, you can be promoted to different levels of professor up to tenure. And as an instructor, I'm an instructor / coordinator. So instructor means I teach a certain amount of classes, and then my other part of my job is the coordinating the classes.
So you work directly with students on a day-to-day basis. That's the definite takeaway that we want our audience to know, that Ms. Wyatt and students right together.
Now, my favorite part of the job is working with students and teaching.
I love my sister's job because she said that the number one email that she sends is it's contained in the syllabus. How many times a semester do you send the email with the answer to your question is in the syllabus?
Almost every time when there's a question specific to the course. Not always. And, because I try to tell my students, like, please look at the syllabus first, because I spend a lot of time putting it together. The answer is most likely there. If it's not, then yes, shoot me an email. But to be honest, usually I start with, as you can see in the syllabus, the answer is, and I still go ahead and answer the question because, I like
Because you're a good
the
instructor.
students.
Now, I bring this up because I feel, as somebody that lives with an anxiety disorder, I feel that knowledge is power, preparation is power, and anybody who is watching that has anxiety, depression, or is fearful of new positions, we're all over the syllabus. We love that because everything is contained there. It's like a roadmap to prepare us, to help us get the lay of the land, for lack of a better word. But I know that many people who are watching, you're probably the parents of students or the friends and family of students, and you're thinking, okay, what is like the number one piece of advice that I can give somebody when they're entering college, if they're fearful or nervous or anxious? And sincerely, all joking aside, the syllabus contains so much information that will help you feel more confident, including next steps, and Debbie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but next steps, assignments, the weight of the assignments, and often when tests are. So you don't have to wonder, is there a test today? No, it's written right there.
I mean, the syllabus is basically like a contract between the instructor and the students. It will tell you what to expect from the course, what you can expect from your instructor, what the instructor expects of you, and it's all there. And I know on a lot of campuses, there's standard terminology or standard parts of the syllabus that tells you about resources on campus. And that's where you can find them so you know where to go.
Very cool. So we have some great questions that were submitted by the audience. Thank you so very much for everybody that contributed a question. We really, really appreciate it. So Debbie, the first question is, and I think I know the answer. See, I'm trying to show off in front of my baby sister like I'm smart. But question from the audience: what is the best way for a student to approach their professor if they're having a mental health issue, a crisis, or if there's just something that they don't understand?
Communicate, communicate, communicate. It's probably one of the most valuable tools at your disposal is to talk to your teacher. And I do recognize that in the pandemic era with a lot of virtual schooling going on, it does add that layer of more email versus any other type of communication. But send an email, introduce yourself. If you're in person, go up after class and talk to your teacher after that. Just get to know them. I mean, everybody is human, obviously. So all you need to do is, right, college degree right here.
A master's, no less.
But no, it's it's so important to talk to your teacher, get that line, open up that line of communication so that if at some point during the semester you are running into issues, then it's really easy to shoot an email. Whether you want to put what you want to tell them in the email, that's fine, or you can say, I need to schedule an appointment, whether it be in person or over Zoom, whatever your instructor does or your professor does, in order to talk to them.
Now, obviously, talking to your professor is communicate, communicate, communicate. As you said, talking to your professor, your instructor, or even your teaching assistant, whomever is in charge of your class. Right? I know, Deborah, you're an instructor, but whomever is teaching your class, you obviously want to keep those lines of communication open, whether it's email, Zoom, or in person, as we transfer into more in-person schooling. And that's an excellent resource for students to have with their instructor. But let's talk about resources that colleges have. So aside from the person who is teaching you, which in this case would be Deborah, let's talk about the college in general. In general, I know you can't speak for all colleges, but in general, what resources do colleges have to help people with mental health issues?
Oh, the colleges have a lot of resources available. There's so many ways that you can find. Sorry, y'all. I'm just tongue-tied today. Is the word I'm looking for. But no, I know our university has a lot of resources, and I think that is standard at every college where you have, if you go to your university or your college's website and just type in resources in the search bar, you're going to pop up. You might see a lot of different things you have to scan through, or you can start putting on more specific information like disability services, Students with Disability Resource Center. Those are great. I know. I tell you what, it's been a long day. But the Students with Disability Resources Center is a great place to go and register. Whether you think you need it or not, go talk to them, go look up the website and see if if it can work for you, because the type of accommodations that I have seen, anything from, let the student have their testing at the resource center where they can be free of distractions, where somebody could read the questions to them, time and a half, because of that anxiety of, I have a half an hour to get through 30 questions and I can't get through a question in 1 minute. But you can get the accommodation of getting time and a half, where instead of 30 minutes, you get 45 minutes, which can help relieve the pressure and that anxiety. So go talk to them. Go see what it is that you can do to make you successful in your course. Because the goal of the Students with Disability Resources is to help you find the way college will work for you to where you can be successful and pass your courses.
Now, some people hear Office of Disability Services and they think, oh, well, that's for people who are in a wheelchair, or that's for people with physical disabilities. And I know in mental health, people are like, well, I have anxiety. That's not a disability. And of course, the word disability, it connotes, unfortunately, in many minds, something negative. The first thing that I want to say is disability doesn't have to be negative. It's just the word that we use to say, hey, something is not stereotypical in a world filled with this is stereotypical. So let's not get hung up on the words here. But what advice do you have for people with mental health challenges they're like, well, I'm not disabled. I don't have a disability. That's not for me. I'll be taking the space of somebody else. That's not the. We hear this a lot in mental health, that's not the place for us. When in actuality, as you've just said, that's absolutely a great place to start. Can you talk on that for a moment so that folks know that don't get hung up on semantics?
Yeah, it's not about the words. It's about what they can do. As I said before, I mean, if you get anxious when taking a test, you might think, oh, that's not a disability. Everybody gets nervous before a test. But if you get anxious to the point that you are unable to concentrate, you're more focused on that clock ticking down versus the questions and whether you know the material, then the Students with Disability Resources is a great place for you to go, because they can work with that and you can get those accommodations. I don't know if you've ever seen that picture on social media or whatnot, where you see people standing and trying to look over a fence. And you got the really tall guy who's like, oh yeah, I can see what's going on. Then you have someone who's kind of on their tiptoes and maybe they can see just a little bit over, and other people who just can't see because they're not tall enough, which would be me, because I'm very short. But it's showing like, and then giving them step stools, accommodations to help them see and get up to the point. They can still all get that end goal of seeing what's over the fence, but some people need a different route to take. And it's not about giving them a leg up. It's about making them have the tools they need to be successful in their courses.
I think that's an incredible analogy. And I do like that picture because it shows that, hey, if we all get the resources that we need, we can all achieve on the same level. And as the tall guy, I'm 6'3", and my sister is, we'll just go with shorter. It would be horribly unfair if I never got her anything off the tall shelves because she deserves access to the things up high. But Debbie is super cool and she gets all the things off the bottom shelves for me because bending over is difficult now that I've reached middle age. So, Debbie, thank you. Thank you for your help. All right, we've got a question from a parent perspective. How can parents advocate on behalf of their adult students at a university? I know that this can be, on one hand, when I first read this question, I'm like, man, your kid is an adult. What are you doing here? But sincerely, I mean, an 18-year-old, 3 months ago they were in high school, and now 3 months later they're at a university. Obviously, parents, and Debbie, you can appreciate this as a mom. It's not like because your kid reaches a magic age, you're just like, oh, I'm done. But there are different rules and instructions, and I know a lot of parents are watching this and they're like, okay, well, how can I help my child? Debbie, can you speak on this?
Yes. All universities have to follow FERPA, and instructors are not allowed to speak to parents based on how their child is doing in the courses. We're not allowed to share grades. We're not allowed to give that type of information. You have to get that directly from the student. We're not even allowed to send it in email because anybody can send an email. Like, we can only discuss grades with that student and with that person. But that being said, that doesn't stop parents from emailing teachers. I've had parents email me, and I had to very graciously, like, I'm sorry, I can't discuss your child's grades with you. I recommend calling him or her and talking to them about it.
But Debbie, let's play a scenario here. Let's say that my child is 18 years old. I know that my child has an anxiety disorder, and I know that my child is struggling. And I say to my lovely child, look, you've got to tell somebody. And my child's like, no, I can't make an appointment with Instructor Wyatt. She looks mean. I'm too anxious to go in. So I send you. Again, I know my kid, so I send you an email, and I'm like, dear Debbie, will you please go talk to my child's name is John, in this analogy. Will you please talk to John? He has an anxiety disorder and he's afraid to talk to you. That's all I say. I don't want any information from you. You get that email. You see that I'm John's dad. What steps would you take to obey I believe you said FERPA, the FERPA rules, stay within your lane, but what action would you take based on my email? Again, and I know you're speaking for yourself and just sort of what you would do and what is sort of common. I know this isn't a requirement, but how would you feel if you received that email and what steps would you take?
If I received that hypothetical scenario, me personally, like I said, I'm not speaking for the university, I'm just speaking for my own personal experience. I would respond to the parents. I always do. I respond to them because I think that's just a common courtesy, is to respond to any email that you receive, and let them know that while I cannot discuss their child, I highly recommend, there are resources available on campus, and I would send links to the public knowledge that anybody can find. I would send links to those things, and I would say, please have your son talk to me, come up to me. I'm happy to work with them, help them find the resources, but I need to hear it from the student directly. And in class, I might try to open up a conversation with them and see if there's anything that I can do to assist, and maybe even let them know, like, I I am very understanding. I am happy to talk to you at any time. Anything I can do for you, and just try to get them to open up without probing, so to speak.
I think it's very good. And so the important piece of information that I feel is that parents are allowed to email you and give you a heads up, for lack of a better word. That doesn't violate any rules. That, again, I know you're not the representative of all professors, instructors, TAs, etc., all across the world, but in general, you want to help your student and you would try to pave the way. So students, or I'm sorry, parents should be. Uh, I don't want to say they not encouraged, but they are able to both encourage their children to talk to you and let them know that you're safe, and maybe grease the wheels a little bit by emailing you first, finding out when your office hours are, things like that. Am I summing that up correctly?
Yeah. Now, all instructors, professors may not respond to parent emails simply because of the FERPA, but I I will respond myself with anything that is public knowledge, that anybody can get this information. I just cannot specifically tell them about their student or about their child. But yeah, it never hurts to try and advocate for your child. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the response you get will depend on the teacher, and don't expect anything specific about your child.
Now, just out of curiosity, Debbie, let's say that a student wanted to meet with you, but wanted to bring along, and I'm not even going to say a parent, just wanted to bring along a support system. So pretend I'm the student, and I'm like, Instructor Wyatt, I want to meet with you, and I have brought Bob with me to sit in. Are you allowed to talk to me with my support system, Bob, sitting next to me, and whomever Bob may be?
Yes, if a student gives the permission to discuss about it, I mean, it's just if they come to you asking a question, they can have anybody with them they want, but you're still talking to the student. I'm not talking to Bob. I'm talking to the student. If Bob overhears, the student knows what they're asking, and if they don't want Bob to hear it, they can say, "Hey, Bob, go over there for a minute," and then we can talk privately about anything. But yes, it's with permission. You are able, and them bringing them with them would be permission.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much. I really think that's a very good idea. I give the same advice for therapy. People are like, I'm afraid to go to therapy. I don't know what that first appointment's going to look like. I'm afraid to see a psychiatrist or tell my general practitioner, etc. And I always give the advice of bring a friend. Bring mom, dad, brother, sister, buddy, whomever you feel comfortable with, because the first appointment is always the hardest. And I want to. I guess I want to stress that for the people who are listening. I can imagine it's probably a difficult conversation, especially you're a freshman in college. Maybe this is your first time away from home. Obviously, college, university, much, much different from high school. It can all seem overwhelming. The first time is the most difficult, and one of the resources or one of the suggestions, tip, if you will, is the buddy system. I strongly believe in it. And also keeping in the back of your mind that the very first time you do anything is always the most difficult that something is, and it generally gets easier from there. Debbie, the next question that has popped itself up again from the audience. Again, thank you so much, audience, for all of your questions ahead of time. We really appreciate it. And Debbie, thank you for working on Labor Day. We obviously appreciate that as well. When should you tell your instructor that you need an accommodation? Should you?
It's
Yeah. What do you recommend?
question. Excellent question. So, if you are registered with your university, your colleges, students with disability resources, you contact them ahead of time to give them a list of your classes and which accommodations you may need for those classes, and then they will turn around and tell the instructor, because you want to have those tools available to you from the first day of class. And if you don't have those, if you wait until the moment that you're in mental crisis or something's going on and you can't focus, then we've already hit too late. Now we need to try to backpedal. So have it ready right at the beginning. Talk to your instructor right there at the get-go, after the first day of class, or shoot them an email before class and talk to them. This way everything's in place. I mean, I've had situations myself where I get letters of accommodations that are necessary after the start of class. It's like, well, I can't go back and redo that test that would allow them the ability to have the questions read to them, because they can hear and understand it better than reading it on paper. But from here forward, then yes, I can help with this. But it's so the sooner the better. Always the sooner the better.
Very cool. Deborah, thank you so much. A question that's popped up, and I first want to warn everybody that it sounds a little, the question when it pops up, it's going to sound a little stigmatizing or discriminatory or offensive, and I do not believe that the audience member meant it in this vein. So we're just, remember, we always assume the best, we don't assume the worst. But the question specifically, Deborah, is, can students with mental illness excel at college? Can you address this, because I know that there are many people that are questioning this, and I'd really like to know your thoughts as an instructor.
Absolutely 100%. I mean, every student, every person is different. Everybody is going to go through college differently. And that doesn't mean that somebody who takes 6 years to graduate because they can only handle you know, not quite a full load of classes every semester. There's no difference. We still met that end goal. We still graduated. Maybe we need to take every other semester off to, you know, refresh, for lack of a better word. And so, yes, everybody can excel, whether you have a mental illness, whether you have even a physical disability, any type of person. If college is your goal, if you want to go to college, then you sit down. Sometimes it can be a little trial and error, but if you apply yourself and you go, you register if you need accommodations in your courses. If you know that, sometimes I just need a week off. I just need time. One of the accommodations that I have seen from the Students with Disability Resources is allowing flexibility in attendance. And generally, the people who register for Students with Disability Services, they're not trying to game the system. And so I know anytime I see it, like, okay, what can I do? Let's work around, have them talk to me. If they need that time off, then as soon as they're ready, come back to me. Let's meet. Come to my office hours. I'll get them caught up on what they missed. And absolutely, 100%, anybody can excel at college. Anybody can excel at anything that they put their mind to.
I love this so much. And I always see questions like this as sort of an offshoot of just misunderstanding, right? I remember when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I thought that I had to like move into a group home and I couldn't work anymore. And it wasn't because I thought that I was a bad person or because I was trying to discriminate against myself, or say, it was just lack of knowledge. And I know that there are many people out there that think, well, maybe I'd like to try college, but I don't think that's for me because, and then we start filling in reasons, right? We start looking for excuses or reasons. And it's really just a manifestation of our fear. We're afraid to do it. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what's out there. What I want folks to take away from this is that people with mental illness do all kinds of things that they did not think they could do, that the people around them did not think they could do. And then even though they are doing it, there are members of society who still don't think they can. It's like, but we're doing it right now. I don't think so. You can't see the forest through the trees, so try.
And I like to tell my students this: failure is always an option. But that is how we learn. So if you go and you're like, all right, I'm going to take this full load, and you register for 5 classes and you find that it is really tough, you are overwhelmed. First of all, go talk to your teachers. See what you can do. Maybe you can get an incomplete in some of those classes and come back and focus on the other ones. But if you fail that first time and you realize, oh man, I should not have taken 5 classes, that was too much for me, maybe next time you go back and you try 3 classes. And it's all about figuring out the best path for you, finding what works for you so that you can be successful.
For many people that I talk to, I always say it's the same method that we learned our coping skills, right? Step one is we had to figure out what we need coping skills for. Step two is we had to learn a coping skill. Step three is we had to try the coping skill on the thing that we learned the coping skill for. If it doesn't work, well, then we just have to start that process over. If it works a little bit, we just have to refine it. And then before we know it, it's like, hey, when X happens, I apply this coping skill and boom, everything works out significantly better than before I had the coping skills. Don't compare yourself to others. Yeah, there's probably somebody out there that can get through college in 3 years, and maybe there's somebody that takes it. Who cares? Who cares? There's always going to be somebody stronger, better, faster, and if they don't exist yet, they're gonna. No matter how hard you try, somebody will come along. Every record falls. I am at the age now where I have seen many people beat the record. I think, oh, that's amazing. And then I'm watching the Olympics and I'm like, oh, somebody beat his record. I remember when she made that record, and there she is looking a little older, congratulating the new person that just whomped her. But I think that's exciting too, right? Life is always moving forward.
And the person who crossed that finish line last still crossed that finish line.
Absolutely. The Debbie, I'm so glad you said that because for some reason, whomever comes in last, the public criticizes. The difference is whomever came in last was in the race. The people criticizing, not in the race. So therefore, all the people criticizing got beaten by the person whom they are mocking. So yeah, just turn around and say, hey, I beat you. You're so much further ahead than you think you are. Not for nothing, though, Debra, sincerely. Wouldn't it be awesome to cross the finish line in the Olympics last? I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I could have been an Olympian and all I had to do was cross the finish line. I'm the 30th greatest of something in my entire country or in the entire world. Like, that's amazing.
Also, not to mention that everybody starts at a different location. My swimming class that I talked about before, beginner swimming, which is my favorite class, it never fails that the students who register for the class, I'll have like out of 20 students, I might have 3 or 4 who are just deathly afraid and no swimming abilities whatsoever. I got a handful of, yeah, they've been in the water, they're comfortable in the water, they just can't swim. And I've even had one time a lifeguard in my beginner swim class. So obviously, he knew how to swim. And so I tell them all, I'm like, first of all, don't compare yourself to others. My grading scale is about personal improvement. So if you start that day and you're holding on to the side and you're not moving that first day off the side of the wall, and by the end of the period, or by the end of the semester, you can swim 1 lap across. But yeah, then you got other ones who are swimming like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Doesn't matter. You have an A in my book. You've improved personally. You are, as long as you are always trying. And so do not compare yourself to others. Just focus on yourself, on your goals.
Deborah, I absolutely love that. Thank you so much. We have we have one more question here. And it's the biggie. I saved it for last on purpose. There was actually several questions that basically said something along the lines of what about returning to school? What about going from virtual to in person? What if you're scared to be in person? What if people won't wear masks? What if they make you wear a mask? I finally decided to sum all of those questions up into one giant talk about COVID and returning to college. And listen, I'm not an instructor. I don't know what the University of Memphis is doing. So talk about COVID.
Ah, yes. Being in the midst of a pandemic. It's every university, every college is different across the state. I mean, we've got several here in Memphis where they all have different requirements and different mandates, whether it be about wearing masks, socially distancing, doing the virtual versus in person, how you're doing that. And I will say that if you get COVID, you're exposed to COVID, you're showing symptoms of COVID, please don't go to class. If you are in person, please don't go to class. Look up on your university, on your college's website, and find out the steps that you need to take to report that. Whether it be that your college is requiring that students who get this go through students with disability resources in order to have that attendance, what's the word I'm looking for? The attendance excused based on it. Or maybe they just say, email direct to your instructor, let them know. And I know that we are back in person, and we have, and in my personal classes, anytime I get students who say, hey, I've tested positive, or I have been coughing all day long. I'm getting a test just to be sure, but I've been coughing and I don't want to come to class. And I'm like, yes, no, stay home. Don't come to class. And then I tell them to follow our policies for the university. And then I let them Zoom into class if they feel up to it. Now, this is just my personal policy that I allow because I don't want anybody to get behind if they be, because they're trying to be responsible and not come to class and potentially spread COVID to the other students. So just look up what your policies are for your college campus and follow that. Email your instructor. Email them as soon as unless you are, hospitalized and unable to contact them, pull out your phone, take 2 minutes to shoot an email like, I am very sick. I will email you with more information later. Just a little heads up because, I don't know, me personally, as a mother, my students are like my kids. I care about y'all and I care about them and I want to make sure that they're all right. So when I don't hear from a student for a while, especially during COVID, I begin to worry and I nag them. I nag them a lot. I send emails. How you doing? You get that test result? Do you need the Zoom link?
Now, Debbie, I know, again, you don't speak for all colleges, but many colleges, even before the pandemic, offered a virtual track, right? An online track. I know that 15 years ago, I took online classes, and there was, I think you were still in high school. But that was long before a pandemic was even on anybody's radar, and I was able to attend college 100% online. Now, I know you can only speak for the University of Memphis, but forget about the pandemic for a moment. Let's say that you just wanted to take all virtual classes. Is that an option?
It just depends on the course, on the track. I know even prior to the pandemic, we had certain degrees that were available all online. I know the University of Memphis has a global program. Um, when COVID happened, we moved everything online, and then we stayed online for over the summer. And we had some returning in the fall, but we were still mostly virtual. So almost every class out there, I would say, has a virtual option, but there are going to be exceptions to the rule. There are just some classes that, while we may do having them virtual, it was not ideal to have them online or virtual. So it just depends on your degree and the class that you want to take. And then, go on to your registrar for your college and see what options you have.
Now, Debbie, you said during the height of the pandemic, obviously for safety, all classes moved online, and I think it's really good. Obviously, we don't want to, spread a worldwide pandemic to our friends and family. Over 600,000 dead. Very, very, very serious. Excellent idea. So I am not minimizing that in any way when I ask this next question. How did you teach a swim class online?
Well, when the shutdown happened, I was teaching a WSI class, which is a class where you learn how to teach swimming. And being an American Red Cross instructor, I am able to offer certification through that. Well, since we were halfway through the semester when it happened, but it pretty much moved to right before we officially shut down, I got into the pool and I recorded a bunch of videos of me swimming different swim strokes and purposefully messing them up and using that for my students to watch and provide feedback to me, as the class is about teaching swimming. So you can't teach swimming without providing feedback to your students. They were able to provide me the feedback of recognize what I was doing incorrectly and what would you tell me to help fix that. But of course, I had to say, I am sorry. I am unable to certify you in this course because we simply did not meet all of the requirements per the American Red Cross. And I hate that. I still look back and like, we weren't able to finish. And then our pool shut down. But luckily, I wasn't teaching a beginner swimming class or a lifeguarding course at that time. It was just the WSI class. So yes, the students weren't able to get that certification, but they were still able to learn the feedback and teaching methods within it. So if they decide, I did offer them the ability. Our aquatic director was having a WSI course, and I spoke with her and I worked out the ability for them to come and make that up if they wanted to. But yeah, so we
Obvious.
haven't been offering the swimming class.
I just oh, apologize. I obviously we have to do everything that we can to keep ourselves safe, but when you talked about and gave a couple examples of kids in the pool, and we say kids, like, isn't that sad? Like, these are adults, right? They're able to be drafted
They
into
are
war,
adults,
and we're calling them children. We've gotten old, Debbie. We've we've gotten old, but sincerely, obviously, we had to make adjustments. The whole world had to make adjustments. We have to work together. We want to keep everybody safe, but it did strike me as like, okay, all right, Debbie, how did you manage that? Kudos, you found a way. And while we didn't get everything that we needed, you moved forward, and I think that's an excellent lesson, right? For people with mental health challenges, people battling there, it might not be exactly how you think it's going to be, but you've got to find ways, and most importantly, work with your instructor, professor, TA, whomever is teaching you, and work with disability services, work with the administration of your college. Just don't assume that there's not a resource out there. Look for the resource, find the best resources, make the best decisions for you, and you can do it.
If you're unsure of your resources, ask your teacher, ask your instructor, because while we might not know all of them, we can at least point you in the right direction.
I think that is fantastic. Debra, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Labor Day. You can, like, where is everybody? I haven't heard anybody walk up and down the halls.
That's
I
because they're not open today.
I mean, that makes sense. It's just I'm so glad that you were willing to come in and
And I
hang
didn't
out with
have my
us.
6-year-old or my high energy dog running in the background here.
Now, just out of curiosity, so you have a 1-year-old German Shepherd, and you have a, right, almost two. So he's still got some puppy in him, and he weighs about what, 90 pounds. He's a giant puppy.
75.
And so 75 pounds of giant puppy happiness, and you've got an almost 7-year-old who basically has the energy of I like a toddler on Red Bull. And then, yeah, so that's your household. How are you addressing your mental health?
I go to work.
I go to work. Debra, thank you so much for being here and spending time with us. And of course, I have to tell everybody one more time all of our announcements. First off, of course, happy Labor Day. We want to thank everybody for being here on a holiday. If you're watching this as a rerun Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or months from now, the information is obviously still good. Please join NAMI Tennessee's email list, namitn.org, so you can find out about all the cool events that we're having, events like these, and of course, events like our virtual conference, which happens on September 23rd and 24th. Lots of very cool tracks, lots of keynote speakers, lots of information to learn. You can find out more at namitn.org. All right, Debbie, are you ready to get out of here?
Sounds good.
All right, bye.